YouTube, what's up? It's your boy KJ here, and we're going to talk about Modern Warfare guns. Now, we haven't used them in a while, let's be honest, because the Cold War guns have always been really good. I know some of you guys sort of, still use them a little bit, but generally speaking, the Cold War guns are pretty well where the meta's at. But they've done some compression on the meta to make pretty well everything viable again. So is the Kilo, the Grau, the M4, and the M13 viable again? Well, they've buffed them and done a little bit of work on them, and I've tried all of them out, and I've got that for you right now. So first things first, let's look at the time to kill on all of these guns. And up close, they're all pretty well about the same. 639 to 673, I mean, that's pretty tight, 60 milliseconds. You get to about 45 to 47 meters, and this is where they have their first damage drop off. And all of the guns go to their next damage level. And the M4 is a little better than the rest of them. But again, this is still pretty tight, right? 777 versus 863. So it's only another 60 millisecond spread between the best and sort of the rest of them. So they're all pretty tight. And then you get out here to about 86 or 87 meters, and the Kilo, after that one nerf that they did a long time ago, really put it far out, and it's, the time to kill on it's brutal. But this is actually when you're shooting guys and they're really small on the screen, really far off, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't know, I don't think we're shooting all that much with an AR past this, maybe a little bit, but let's be honest, most of our AR contacts is probably in this like 20 to 80 meter range, so they're all pretty tight. But how does this stack up against a popular Modern Warfare gun like the Krig? Let me add that and let's have a look. All right, so I added the Krig in, and it's the dark blue, and you can see here that actually the Kilo is a little faster up close, but the Krig has a bit of a farther before you get to that first damage drop off, so that's one thing about it. And then when it gets to that next damage level, it almost exactly mirrors the M4. So when stacked up against the rest of the guns, it is a tiny bit better, but that's very slight. You can definitely use the M4 or the M13 or the Kilo or the Grau, any one of these guns up to that sort of about 85 meter range, and pretty well feel exactly the same. So you're not going to be hampered if you pulled out one of the Modern Warfare guns and went up head to head at any range up to about 80 meters versus somebody using a Cold War gun, which is good. So they're all viable again. But how do they work and feel when you're actually using them? All right, so let's start with the Kilo. And to be honest, the Kilo was the one that I was sort of the most reluctant to try because of that damage drop off. But to be honest, when I was using it, it actually felt pretty good. I didn't really feel like, I was hampered when I was using it at all because look at this guy, he's pretty far away. But to be honest, that's only about 40 meters. It's actually not that far. So 66. So there you go. So I didn't actually feel like I was hampered at all and that the hits were actually working pretty good. And that was sort of when I was talking about that 86 meter drop off. That's where you do a lot of your shooting and fighting, is sort of in that range. And that's what I'm doing here. And it was getting guys down. And I always really liked using the Kilo. So it was actually pretty fun for me to use this again. I just wish it didn't have that third damage drop off. But other than that, the shooting on it is smooth. These guys in the helicopters, as soon as I see them, I go for them first. I don't know what it is. It drives me nuts. So when you see me shooting a guy in a helicopter, it's for good reason, right? But anyway, nice and smooth, works pretty good. And I actually enjoyed using the Kilo again. It was good gun for me. So the M4 is one gun that I've used quite a bit back in the Modern Warfare days. Even when the Kilo and the Grau were meta, I always sort of used the M4. It was just one of my favorite guns. So going back to it is really good for me. It's one gun that, I really enjoy using it. It shoots nice and straight. I've got a really cool tracer pack for it, and it hits pretty hard. I like the RPM. It's just a really good balanced gun, and I feel like the damage close and far is really close. So that's one thing that I really enjoyed about that gun is, just how straight it is and easy it is to use. Not to say that all the other guns aren't that easy, but I don't know, there's something about the M4 was probably my favorite gun back from the Modern Warfare days. But let me show you the M13 and the Grau as well. So the M13 was a gun I could never get down with. It was just a pea shooter for me, but they did buff it. So as you saw on the TTK graphs, the damage on it is pretty good. And one thing about it is it's probably the smoothest of all the guns. Although, to be honest, when I was using it, it didn't feel all that much difference than the Grau or the Kilo or the M4. I think the Modern Warfare guns are all pretty close. They're not like the Cold War guns where, the nature of the guns is much broader. Those four guns are all pretty close. So, I mean, to figure out which one was your favorite, it's sort of be kind of hard because, there's not that much variance in them. But back in the day, the M13 was brutal. It just wasn't the gun for me. Now, it works pretty good. So if you do have it fully leveled up and you want to go back and you're thinking, oh, maybe I want to try the M4 or the Grau, the M13 is just as good now. And it works works really well. I actually enjoyed playing with it, and to be honest, I sort of forgot I was using the M13. It sort of felt like the Kilo or the Grau or the M4 to me. So, I mean, if it was one that you liked, it's probably worth to pull out and try again. And then finally, the Grau. So this is some of the footage from when I did my Grau video, so I'm just repurposing it for this montage. However, the Grau was probably, the one gun that, if I was ever going to put a Modern Warfare 1 out, I said I liked the M4 better, but the Grau was always really good, and I have really good memories of using it. So I'd be really hard-pressed to pick a favorite between the Grau and the M4, even though I think the M4, the time to kill, is slightly better on it, but it's, the Grau is better up close, which is one thing. If I'm carrying it with a sniper, I'd probably carry the Grau. If I was carrying, with an SMG, I'd probably carry the M4. So that's sort of where my bias kind of lands when I'm using the two guns, but they're not really all that much different. So, I mean, the Grau itself is a really good, a viable gun again, and if you used it back in the meta days, and it was really one of the ones that you used a lot, you can definitely also pull it back out and try it again, because as you saw in those time to kill charts, again, another helicopter guy, gotta get those guys. If you saw in the time to kill charts, it's just as good as the Krieg 6, or pretty close. So let me take you through the loadout for each of the guns so you can see how I've got them built. And to be honest, they're all pretty similar. Just before I jump into that though, I want to say thank you to everybody who's recently subbed to the channel and is here watching my videos. I really appreciate all that love and support. So thank you guys. And if you haven't subbed to the channel, consider subscribing, because it really does help small content creators like myself. And I'm getting pretty close to 10K subs, which is a pretty big milestone for most YouTubers. It's probably fairly small compared to some of the other guys, but I'm a small YouTuber. So hit that sub button, because it really does help out small guys like me. All right, let me show you the build on all my guns. All right, so let me start with the M4, and the build on these is all pretty similar. So monolithic suppressor, the stock M16 Grenadier, that's where you get the most bullet velocity, VLK 3.0, 60 round mag, commando foregrip. This is gonna look pretty familiar as I go. So for the Kilo, monolithic suppressor, but for this one, you want the Singard Arms 19.8 Prowler. The barrel is where it's gonna really change. I had the Solo Zero on here. I used to use that. It's actually a pretty good optic, and I had a video on using the Solo Zero. If you have trouble with target acquisition, I'll actually link it right here, and you can check that out. It actually really helps with target acquisition, especially in Verdansk, where it's much larger distances and you have a harder time seeing guys. You should try it out if you haven't. Otherwise, the VLK is the one that I typically run on Rebirth. Commando foregrip and the 60 round mag. For the Grau, monolithic, it's the Tempest 16.4 Archangel, and then your VLK 60 round commando foregrip. And for the M13, it's also pretty similar, monolithic, Tempest Marksman, that's where you get your bullet velocity, VLK 60 round mag, and the commando foregrip. So basically that's how I've got the four guns set up. They're all fairly similar. If I was to pick some of the guns, well, I would probably eliminate the Kilo just because of that huge damage drop off at long ranges. I just could never quite tell if I was hitting, that really high TTK or not. So that was sort of out for me. The M13 is kind of out for me, not for any reason other than, I guess maybe I'm just biased against it. I didn't like it before, and it's good, but I can't get down with it. So if you like it and you used it before, pull it out again, because it's even better than it used to be. And that sort of leaves the Grau and the M4. So for me, I think the Grau is better up close as a close medium. So if I was going to carry a sniper, I'd probably carry the Grau. You could still use a VLK 3.0 or a shorter range scope. If I was going to run an SMG, I'd run the M4A1 because I feel it's more consistent at range for me. So I would run that with the VLK and maybe run an SMG. So anyway, that's pretty well what I would do. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Have you used the Modern Warfare guns, or maybe you're thinking of it? That's why you're checking this video out. If you're thinking about it, pull them out and give them a try again. They're all pretty viable again. They work really well. I didn't feel like I was hampered at all. You saw the time to kill versus the Krieg, right? The M4 is just as good. I think it shoots just as smooth. So, pull it out and give them a try again. If you're sort of looking for a bit of that throwback to the original Modern Warfare days, you can definitely get it by pulling some of the Modern Warfare guns and trying them again. And I recommend you do. It was actually pretty fun using all four of these guns. Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, if you don't see me in Warzone, if you don't see me in multiplayer, it's only a matter of time, baby. King James out.